Look at that patch right there. By the time you can actually see crabgrass in your lawn, that one plant has already dropped enough seed to bring back 100 more next year. Think back to the Saturday you spent on it last summer. You got down on your knees and pulled it, or you mixed up a sprayer and walked the whole yard. It browned out and died just like it was supposed to. And then this spring, in that exact same spot, it came back anyway. That isn't bad luck, and it isn't anything wrong with how hard you worked. That's what happens when you fight the plant instead of the seed it already left behind weeks before you ever touched it. The plant you're looking at right now isn't the problem. The problem is what's sitting in your soil that you can't see yet. One habit in this video is the reason the weed keeps coming back to that same patch no matter how many times you pull it. Another is a mistake almost every homeowner makes with their mower, one that spreads the seed farther than the wind ever could. And the last is the one thing that actually stops it before it starts, and it costs less than a bag of fertilizer. My name's Aimee. I've been keeping this garden and these lawns the better part of my life, and my grandmother kept them before me and hers before her. 3 generations, and not once has a lawn service truck pulled into the drive. The habits that work here don't depend on a chemical brand or a subscription. They depend on timing and attention, and both of those cost nothing at all. If this is useful to you, there's more of it. Subscribe now so it finds you again. Now look at how it grows. Most grass grows the way you'd expect, straight up from one point, reaching for the sun. Crabgrass does something different. It spreads outward from the center, low to the ground, in a shape like the legs of a crab reaching out in every direction, and that's exactly where the name comes from. The color gives it away before the shape does. It sits a shade lighter than the turf around it, almost pale, and it grows fastest in the hottest part of summer, right when your good grass is struggling just to hold on. Get down low and look across your lawn at an angle instead of straight down, and the lighter patches will show themselves. It favors the same spots every time: bare soil, thin turf, the edge of a path where the ground gets walked on. Anywhere the grass has been stressed or thinned, that's where it moves in, because crabgrass needs open soil to get started, and thick, healthy turf won't give it the room. But before you treat anything, you have to be sure it's crabgrass at all, because 2 other weeds get mistaken for it more than any others. My grandmother used to walk the yard every spring before she touched a single weed. She'd kneel at each patch, take hold of it low, and pull with just enough force to see how it let go. Some came up whole in her hand, others held on and snapped off at the surface, leaving the root behind. She wasn't guessing which weed was which. She was testing it every time, because she'd learned the hard way that treating 2 different problems the same way wastes a whole season. Goosegrass shows up along a driveway or a worn path, growing flat like a wagon wheel with a pale, almost silvery center. It likes the same hard-packed ground your feet and tires keep pressing down. Dallas grass is the one that fools people the longest, because it comes back in the exact same clump year after year, growing upright and thick with tall seed heads standing above the lawn. If you've pulled the same weed from the same spot for 3 summers running and it always returns, that's very likely Dallas grass, not crabgrass. It survives the winter underground the way a perennial does, so nothing you do to stop a seed will ever touch it. The only fix is digging the clump out, roots and all. Crabgrass doesn't survive anything. It dies completely with the first hard frost and starts over from seed alone the next spring. That single difference changes everything. A weed with a living root has to be dug out by hand. A weed that only comes from seed can be stopped before the seed ever lands, and that's what the rest of this is about. Now, here's the mistake that almost guarantees you'll fight this same weed again next year, and it has nothing to do with how much you spray. People let the plant mature until it's gone to seed, then run the mower straight through it without a second thought. A single mature crabgrass plant doesn't make a handful of seeds. It makes thousands. And that one pass carries them to every corner of the yard the mower touches next. You're not creating crabgrass by mowing. You're distributing it one pass at a time to ground that was clean 5 minutes earlier. The fix takes less than a minute. After you cut through any patch that's already gone to seed, tip the mower on its side and knock the underside of the deck clean with a stiff brush before you finish the rest of the yard. And if your mower has a bag, empty it into a bucket, not the compost pile. Compost doesn't always get hot enough to kill the seeds, so what goes into your garden can come right back out into your lawn next year. That stops the spread. It doesn't stop the plant from finding new ground to begin with, and crabgrass only wants one thing: bare soil. Walk your yard and look at where it actually shows up. The thin strip along the driveway, the worn path where the dog runs, the bare gap by the gate, those aren't random. Sunlight has to reach bare soil for the seed to sprout, and those are the only places it can. So, here's the change that does the most work for the least effort. Set your mower deck to 3.5 inches and leave it there all season. Grass that tall shades the soil, and that shade keeps the ground cooler and darker exactly when crabgrass seed needs warmth and light to wake up. Cut any shorter and you're opening the door yourself every time you mow. Then, in fall, overseed those thin and bare patches about 6 to 8 weeks before your first hard frost while the soil's still warm. That new grass roots in and thickens before crabgrass season ever arrives. A thick lawn is the cheapest pre-emergent there is. My grandmother always kept a coffee can of seed set aside each fall, just for patching the bare spots before winter set in. And the most important habit of all is timing. Crabgrass seed doesn't know the month, it only knows the soil. Once the ground holds steady at 55 degrees for several days running, the seed starts pushing up. That happens as early as late January in the deep south and as late as May up north. So a calendar can't tell you, push a probe thermometer a couple of inches into the ground in a sunny spot, check it every few mornings as winter turns to spring, and when it holds at 55, that's your window. Put down corn gluten meal then, and it stops the sprouting seed without touching the grass that's already growing. None of this makes crabgrass disappear from the earth. What it does is take away what the weed needs: the bare soil, the seed left to mature, the timing missed by a few weeks, one at a time, until there's far less of it to fight each year. A lawn service doesn't make its living telling you to raise your mower a notch and check the ground with a thermometer you already own. That's exactly why nobody walked you through it plainly before. Stay patient, stay deliberate, take care of that yard.